Hey guys, I just thought I'd come on here and say a few things that I kind of noticed. I was just watching one of the Final Hours videos that our brother Mark Etwame made, and it was talking about the volatility of the market right now and economic collapse being kind of like looming over our heads and all these things. And would it, in essence, also, if a war were to break out, of course, of which we're involved in, collapse the dollar and restart the economy under some other type of paradigm shift? And I thought, well, yeah, that could happen. I mean, it would take a cataclysmic event or something like that to cause the market failures normally, or if they, the bubble burst, so to speak. And this was something that I've always been integrally involved in during my days in corporate America. Uh, I got my degree in my first degree was in business management and public relations, and then my master's degree was an MBA in finance and economics. And so I'd always been a student of watching market trends and how to invest money and things like this. And I had what they called back then like Series 6 and 7 licenses where I could actually trade and for clients and such, and which is always helpful, in terms of investment banking, whether somebody wants to put money in a TDA or TDI is what we called them, which was a tax deferred investment or annuity, something like a retirement or a 401k account. They would come to my company for like mutual funds or, any number of things, all the way up to like futures and options, but mostly stocks and bonds. And most of those were involved in accounts where they spread the risk over several companies. And what a lot of people call that is a mutual fund, just to let you guys know, for those of you who don't really study the numbers or the markets or the economy. But I guess the important part of it is that the numbers really don't lie, but people can, and people can manipulate numbers to show what they wish and or affect numbers through other things. And the markets can basically dependent upon a lot of things, investor optimism, trends in the market that people can see coming. And I'm not talking about inside information at this point where something's going to happen to your company and you bail out and you're a major stockholder, and those things are forbidden, but and against the law. You can't just sell off all your stock right before the crash. But yet it's hard when you're involved in that every day not to see it coming before a lot of people do. And and I guess my point is that after you go through the things that I've just gone through in my career, I went through, and I'm retired now, guys. So, I mean, I guess I can speak on this freely, and is the fact that the company I was working for in the late 80s and early 90s was right during the savings and loans final collapse, because they were investing in risky ventures, but they were backed by the FDIC and felt that security. And yet the mortgage markets were not doing well. And henceforth, they failed nationwide. And a lot of people called it Black Tuesday. And it was this time of year. It was in October. And looking back on a time period within which that we did not exist, which would have been back in 1929, the Black Friday, or the day that the stock markets fell and crashed, was also in October. And so it does seem that a lot of investors are you either make a lot of money or you're, scared to invest any money in October, I guess, if you're a little superstitious. But nonetheless, here we are in October again. And I remember something that happened more recent, like and when I worked for Wells Fargo, I guess it was easier to see, and I worked for them for several years of the last part of my career, and before I retired, which was in the summer of 2008, and I suppose that a lot of people would say, well, that was the right time to get out, considering all that was happening. But we did see signals coming, we saw things coming. But I suppose when you're that big of a bank and that old of an established bank, you do feel like you you are too big to fail, or at least some of our higher ups did, because it's not like I was the president of the company. But there weren't very many people, like maybe a handful of vice presidents between me and the president of the company at that time, because I'd worked my way up. Well, what I saw coming looked unprecedented to me, and I couldn't understand why at that time that I guess the media was not reporting on it. Like if we were feeling the pain of it, of mortgages going belly up right and left, then surely they would announce that we were in a recession. Because back when I was in school, they would say that an economic downturn is defined as a recession if it has lasted past a certain amount of months, typically a year and a half, something like that. And, really since about '05 or '06, we started seeing those things happen. So it's not like that they didn't do what they could to try to save themselves and other investors as well, because I got to see it from the inside out. If you're the largest mortgage company in the world, or certainly one of the biggest and the oldest bank in America, then obviously you're going to feel the pain of that if all of a sudden you have what's considered to be a paper. Because let's face it, I mean, like, you charge a higher interest rate for bigger risk, right? So if you take a guy that's got, say, $100,000 mortgage, that guy, let's say he's got average credit. He's like a B minus or a C plus. He's not perfect. He's got a decent job, but he's not burning up the world. But he didn't ask you for a lot either. He's got $100,000 mortgage, and he's living in his house, and he's paying his bills. Well, he's going to pay a little bit higher interest, obviously, than somebody who's a paper, or considered to be, pay their bills like a champ, and they make big money, right? So this A bucket paper that we saw all of a sudden was going belly up too. And guys, it hurts. I mean, it's not like a guy with $100,000 mortgage, all of a sudden he loses his job and we have to foreclose. This guy, in the A bucket paper, might have a $450,000 to $650,000 mortgage at a very low rate that you're not making much return on anyway, because he can get his money anywhere. He's always had perfect credit. All of a sudden he's out of work, and maybe he's a brain surgeon. I don't know. But all of a sudden you're taking a bath for $500,000, because there's a lot of water in those loans, because you base it more on the risk factor that the person will pay. He's a 40-year-old surgeon. He's got his whole life ahead of him. He's working, making big money, do.A. Well, this was happening all over the place, guys. And I mean, and these loans were going, and it was almost like 3 or 4 or 5 normal loans going at one time. And so big companies do see that. And I understand, why it's a large indicator of things to come, and things that are happening. But it wasn't just with Wells Fargo; it was with all of the big banks, and it is hard to see something like that. I mean, like, it's easy to see it coming once it's there, right, guys? I mean, hindsight's 2020. But for a lot of people who are economists that are still working out in corporate America now, they see these things coming now. And I suppose that being out of the mix more, I'm not in it every day, but I can see things too. I see the prices at the grocery store going up. Anyone can see that, and other indicators like the Dow. And even if you don't have a lot of money invested or anything like that, or you're a young person, it doesn't take a rocket science or somebody with a degree, like say what I had, or years of decades in banking, seeing the upturns and the downturns at the same time, to see what's coming sometimes. And it can happen to the public. It can seem rather quickly, even though there may have been indicators all along. I know that we've been given numbers like, well, okay, since Trump's been in office, unemployment's down, or this is down, or house sales are up, or there's a housing shortage. Henceforth, prices are going up on houses and things like that. So that can give an indication that the market is doing well. But in actuality, when a lot of the money, it's not like it's backed by gold or things like that. A lot of it's on basically what we would say about the surgeon that I mentioned earlier. It's based upon the risk factor of, is that person, he pays his bills, he makes good money, he's worth that loan, he's worth taking the risk on at a low rate, even if it's a small return on investment. Well, that's kind of like how America has been seen really for the last several decades, since World War II. We borrowed based upon the faith that we would pay it back and that we were a strong country and could defend ourselves and any number of factors, guys. And so, not to say that we're going to finance or economics 101 today or anything like that. What I'm saying is just do keep your eyes open, because I noticed something else today too. Everybody's talking about, oh, well, perhaps that the internet would go down and all these things. Well, I do know one thing. I wake up this morning and I'm looking at my video feeds, okay? And guys, I've never monetized my channel. I've never put a commercial on there. Henceforth, I've never even received even $1 from YouTube. And that's fine. I mean, like, it's an agreement between, I guess, us and them when we put up a channel that we either will allow monetization or we don't. So I didn't expect any money from them either. So it's all fair. Okay, so I'm not saying anybody robbed me or anything like that. I've never made any money off of YouTube. Um, so that being said, the first 6 months of my videos are gone. March of 2017, when I started my video channel, it's gone. April's gone. May's gone. June's gone. July's gone. August is gone. September, and the videos don't start till October. So here we are, 2018. I've only got about a year's worth of videos on there, when in actuality I had a year and a half's worth of videos, which is like 18 months. And I got to thinking, okay, 18 months, that's I don't know, guys. I mean, like that, it's just crazy. So I looked at my view count, and sure enough, I mean, it had plummeted because, it's not like I've had like a million views or anything like that, but it was probably around 350,000, something like that. I think I don't look at the numbers a lot because I'm not monetized and it doesn't mean a lot to me, but you can't help but seeing it every once in a while when you're plugging into your own channel to go make comments and such. But I'm down to 150,000 views. At least my sub count remained the same. So if unless I had gone back trying to find an old video because I told someone, yeah, I made a video on that, let me send it to you. And I started looking for it. And guys, I mean, not only was it not there, but the first 6 months of my videos, which probably amounted to around 50 or 60 videos, were completely gone. So I didn't contact YouTube about it. Perhaps it's just a mistake and they'll mysteriously appear again just like they disappeared, but I just thought it was weird. So I thought I'd bring that to your all's attention. And I hope this makes sense to someone out there, because I'm not much into I've heard for a long time now that, the economy perhaps would have a collapse and things like that. But I've never really felt any urgency about that, because I saw other indicators that that suggested that everything would at least not be felt by the average person yet, except maybe a little bit of hit me up at the cash register at the grocery store or something like that. But pretty much, like a lot of people who were unemployed even 2 or 3 years ago have found work if they wanted to find work. And there's others who have not. So, I mean, like, you could look at it either way, but guys, keep your eyes open. I mean, I think it's all a sign of the time. I think it's, very possibly these are the things that wars can come from, when someone, I guess, has their guard down, or their money count down. And if you haven't accepted Jesus, now would be the time, guys. Romans 10 verses 9 and 10 tells us that if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord, that the same shall be saved, because confession is unto salvation as belief is unto righteousness. And guys, it's true. And it's that simple. Even so a child could understand it, which many of us were saved as a very young person. Some of us even before we hit double digits. I've heard Barry Scarborough say that, for example, that he was a 5-year-old child. And so man complicates things, and like I said, even if the numbers don't lie, men do. And I feel like that the time is the time to say something like this.